Hey guys, happy Friday from Scottsdale, Arizona. Luke and I are traveling back, and I can't think of a better chapter for us to jump into for this. So we're going to get into it. Last week we did chapter 20 and 21, and this week we're going to just do a quick little chapter 22. We're all kind of familiar with this, and hopefully we are. If not, it's okay. We're going to get into it. When Abraham's tested to sacrifice Isaac, his son. So a lot of good points here, so we're going to jump into it. Chapter 22, Abraham's tested. It says, sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Time out real quick. So just that right there, he's asking him to sacrifice his only son. So remember, Isaac was a miracle. They were almost 100 years old when they had him. And now he's telling him he's got to kill him. So, but Abraham's faithful. And so when he says your son, your only son who you love, in Hebrew, the word only is Yahid. And it's kind of an unusual term. The only time they use that one again is Jesus. And so when it talks about the one and only son, in Greek, it's monogenes. And so it's the one and only. And so that's kind of where it comes from. Moriah is it's kind of the same term they use for Calvary. And so when Jesus is sacrificed. So later on, David ends up buying all that, and it's just a hill, and they end up building temples for Jerusalem. So it is a holy site where he asked Abraham to go, and it's about 45 miles. So it's a 3-day trip. Isaac, he's probably around 15 years old. I can tell you I've been on a 3-day road trip with my son, and this would be a hard decision to make. You know, I mean, the more time you spend with your kids, the closer you get to them, and that's a good thing. But right now, God's asking Abraham to sacrifice him. But Abraham's loyal. He knows that his son was a gift from God, and whatever he needs to do, he's going to do. It's all about fear of the Lord. Do you fear the Lord? You're going to get good things in return. And so as we keep going, we want to remember, one, he heard God. The first time, that's very important. We always need to have our ears on for God. And so that comes in the beginning when he's asked to take him on this journey, and at the end. So let's keep going. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. So he got up early. He's ready to go. He's taking this seriously. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place that God told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. So he even brought enough wood in case there wasn't enough wood for the burnt offering. He packed everything. He's like the over-ready dad for the trip, okay? He said to his servants, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you. So he's already got in his head that God's ready for a miracle, no matter what, because he promises his servants they're both coming back, even though God's asked him to sacrifice his son. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father, Abraham, Father. Yes, my son, Abraham replied. The fire and the wood are here, Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? He doesn't know that it's himself. I don't know about you guys, but my kids would have asked like a million questions already. So day 3, he finally asked. They're on their way up the mountain. What are we sacrificing? Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the 2 of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar. Oh yeah, so Isaac's freaking out by now, right? And Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood to it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. It doesn't really say Isaac's emotions, but right now I can only imagine. But we're also he's training his son too to be as faithful as possible because they're listening to the Lord. So if that's what God says, that's God's plan. So he laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from the heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Do not lay a hand on that boy. He said, "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." There it is again, the only son. Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." So first he heard God, and then he heard God again. We really have our ears on, because he's got a knife in hand and he's ready to sacrifice his own son. But luckily he was so faithful to the Lord that he had his ears on for God, and he heard to stop. It's very important for us, because whatever we find ourselves doing in the heat of battle of something, we need to have our ears on for God too, because God could totally divert us and save a lot of hardship for us, because he's always looking out. So we got to remember to listen to God, because he will divert our path for the good. Let's see. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time. And he said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies. And through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me." Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba. Man, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for us to be faithful to God, because when we are Christians, we're called more than others. Where the devil will test us, he'll tempt us to be the worst of ourselves. God will put us in positions to be the best of ourselves. And so that's something that we should embrace and exercise, because as we grow older and work with God, and he just sharpens us like iron, it'll make us better in the long run and be able to sharpen other people. So as iron sharpens iron, we're sharpened with God's tests for our testimonies, because you got to have a test for a testimony, and then we're able to sharpen other people, same as Abraham did. And then there's one little side note at the very end of this chapter. It says, "Sometime later Abraham was told, Milcah is also a mother. She has borne sons to your brother Nahor. Uz the firstborn, Buz his brother, Kamel." So he's telling him that he's got a lot more nephews from his brother Nahor. So that's kind of a side note. But we're going to hang it up there, because it's kind of a lot to take in. Abraham was asked to sacrifice his son, ended up not sacrificing his son because he listened to the Lord. But the Lord was so happy and pleased with Abraham and Isaac that he spared them, and that they end up being having offspring for great nations, and they go on to be well known and do great things. They're some of the most important people in history and the Bible. So anyway, love you guys. Keep your ears on for the Lord. He wants to talk to you. And if you guys are in the middle of a test, hold strong, because it's going to be a great testimony. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you.